Part 1. Describing the study. Why is this study being done? The Health Research Board, or HRB, is funding research that examines the experience of patients who have had a stroke recently. We wish to understand how best to plan and organise stroke services to meet the individual needs of people who have a stroke. While we are interested in the whole patient journey from the moment the stroke symptoms started until a person gets home again, in this study we're especially interested in the early or acute phase of stroke. So by speaking with people who have recently had a stroke or to a family member familiar with what happened around the time of the stroke, we may see patterns in their stories that might help us identify areas for improvement in care and services. We want to make every patient's stroke journey better and reduce any potential after effects that a person might have after a stroke. The experiences of people like those of your family member are very valuable to us, and we believe that hearing their story, albeit through a family member, will help us to improve care for other people in future. Who is organising and funding this study? This study is being organised by a team of researchers who work at Beaumont Hospital and at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. The study is funded by a grant from the Health Research Board and is part of a postgraduate qualification or PhD for a doctor who works in stroke care in Ireland. Why am I being asked to take part? We are asking you to consider taking part because your family member has recently had a stroke, so we feel that we can learn from the experience of your family member. We wish to include everyone who has had a recent stroke in Beaumont Hospital in the study. The stroke consultant looking after your relative has assessed the ability or capacity of your relative to participate directly and independently. It's the consultant's assessment that your relative will not be able to participate directly themselves. We want to give all patients experiencing a stroke the opportunity to have their story included, and so we are asking you to consider participating on your relative's behalf. A health research consent declaration has been granted for this study. And this means that an independent committee has reviewed the study and notes that while some participants like your relative are unable to give explicit consent on their own, there is a public good to be achieved by including them in the study. We believe that understanding every individual stroke journey can help us improve how stroke care is organised for everyone who has a stroke in future, and so we want to include your relative so that their story is heard, despite them being unable to participate currently themselves. How will the study be carried out? During your family member's hospital admission, a member of the medical or stroke team will speak to you about taking part in the study on your family member's behalf. If you express an interest in finding out more information about the study, then a member of the research team will explain the study in detail at a time that suits you. There are 2 parts to the study. Firstly, you'll be asked to complete a survey with the researcher while you're at the hospital, responding on behalf of your family member as far as it's possible to do so. The second part will happen 3 months later, where some people, though not everyone, who participated in the survey will be invited to take part in an interview about the experience of the person who had a stroke. About 1 in every 5 people who complete the survey will later be invited for interview. Interviews will last about 40 to 60 minutes and will be held at the place of residence of the participant or online if they prefer. So initially you'd be given time to think about whether you're interested in participating in a survey containing questions that are relating to what happened around the time of the stroke that your family member has recently experienced. We'll also ask if you would consider being contacted again in about 3 months' time to discuss if you or your family member would like to participate in a follow-up interview about your family member's experience at the time of the stroke and their experience afterwards. By this time, 3 months after the stroke, your family member may be able to participate independently, and so your input might not be directly required. We will also ask for permission to contact your family member's GP should that be necessary. The researcher will return usually the next day after you've had time to think about it and to read this information leaflet and answer any questions that you might have about the study. If you agree to participate, you'll be asked to sign a consent form to give your permission to participate in the survey on behalf of your family member. You would also be asked to assent to the participation of your family member, with you acting as a proxy reporter on their behalf. You would also be asked to give consent to be contacted again in 3 months. And if after 3 months you are contacted again, your family member may be in a position to decide for themselves whether or not to participate in an interview. If they have not regained the capacity to participate, you will be offered the opportunity to participate in an interview on their behalf, again as a proxy reporter. If you decide you do not want to take part in an interview on their behalf, That decision will not affect their care in any way. If you do decide to participate in this first part of the study, the researcher will fill in the survey with you. You're under no obligation to participate in any research study, and participating in the survey puts you under no obligation to take part in a later interview, should you be invited to do so. What will happen to me if I agree to take part? If you agree to participate in the study on behalf of your family member, the researcher will go through each of the questions of the survey with you one by one. The survey will have questions about stroke in general, but also about what happened to your family member from the moment stroke symptoms were noticed to getting help and getting to the hospital for treatment. The researcher will fill in the answers with you. If you cannot remember or do not know the details from the time of your family member's stroke, don't worry, that's quite common. It's still worth completing as many of the survey questions as possible. The survey will take about 20 to 30 minutes and will be filled in at a time that suits you. Ideally, it will be completed in the presence of your family member and will not interrupt their time with their multidisciplinary team members. Their care will always be the priority. The researcher will also review your family member's medical records on the ward to collect information about their stroke, including the type of stroke, their blood pressure and blood sugar readings at the time of the stroke, and their medical history. They will not be asked to give blood samples or have any new tests. If they attended Beaumont Hospital by ambulance, we will also ask Dublin Fire Brigade to summarise the times that they recorded for all calls related to their stroke. You can stop participating at any time. The discussion while completing the survey will not be recorded in video or audio format. And if recalling or describing the details of your family member's stroke causes you any distress or upset, you can tell the researcher you wish to stop answering the survey questions at any time. You can stop for a break temporarily, or you can withdraw from the study altogether, and this will not impact their medical care. Your distress will be acknowledged and supported. What are the benefits? While your family member may not benefit directly, it is hoped that the results of this study will help people who have a stroke in future to have the fastest possible access to the care that they need. We want to improve how stroke services are planned and organised to make them as fast and efficient as possible for everyone so that people have the best possible outcome after their stroke. What are the risks? The study involves a survey with questions about people's understanding of stroke in general and about your family member's recent experience of stroke, stroke care and stroke services. Questions will refer to what happened around the time the symptoms of stroke were first noticed. For some people, this might be distressing to recall. If you experience any distress during or after discussing the questions on the survey, you can speak about this to the research team or to your family member's medical team or stroke team. Additionally, the Irish Heart Foundation have a stroke support group who can be contacted by telephone on 016685001 Monday to Friday 9am to 1pm, and they can also be contacted by email using the address support@irishheart.ie. Confidentiality is important in research studies, and we try our very best to keep all of our conversations confidential. In a hospital, this can be a challenge. All the files and paperwork for this study will be confidential, but it is possible that our conversations could be overheard on a ward. Every effort will be made to make sure confidentiality is maintained at all times, while also giving everyone who wishes to participate the opportunity to do so. What if something goes wrong when I'm taking part in the study? It's very unlikely that anything will go wrong as a result of participating in this study. However, if you feel distress as a result of the survey, you can speak to the researcher or to your family member's stroke team. The contact details of the doctoral researcher are on the last page of this information leaflet. Is the study confidential? All information collected will remain confidential at all times. Yours and your family member's personal details, name, date of birth and address, and contact details, telephone number and email address will be coded so that only the research team will be able to determine your identity. All information will be destroyed after 5 years. We will let your family member's GP know if you participate on their behalf, unless you feel your family member would prefer that your GP is not made aware. Your family member's medical records will remain in the possession of Beaumont Hospital at all times and never removed from the hospital for this study. You have the right to access all information gathered with regard to your contribution to the study. We hope to publish the results of the study in scientific journals. However, your family member will not be identifiable in any publication. We will anonymously acknowledge your help in this study in future publications.